We are back for another episode of Local Festive Traditions, which explores the roots and holiday traditions of local immigrant stories right here in Kennebunk. Each of these stories was researched and written using the local census as well as archival materials here at the Brickstore Museum. Don't forget, you can leave us stories about your own family traditions, questions about the stories that we tell, and discover more of the videos at brickstoremuseum.org/festive traditions. Let's jump back into our story.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Abraham Rosinstein. In 1899, my wife and I, Hedda Gortau, boarded the White Star Line ship the Western Land and sailed from our home in Russia with our small daughter, Ida. We landed in Philadelphia to start our new life in America. I was born in 1877 in Kiev, Russia, now Kiev in the Ukraine. Our family did not generally celebrate Jewish traditions while living in Russia, as the Russian Empire at that time was sponsoring large-scale targeting of Jewish people. In fact, my wife and I grew up during one of the Russian pogroms, which were violent anti-Jewish riots across the country. In 1900, the pogroms became increasingly violent, and that's one of the reasons why we chose to leave our lives and family in Russia and emigrate to the United States. I had roughly a high school education and could speak Hebrew and some English, in addition to Russian. In our first few years in Maine, we added to our family. Our daughters Rosa and Sadie and son Nathan, all born in Biddeford. However, we had a major family tragedy when my wife Hedda died in 1907, leaving me alone to care for our 4 small children, all of whom were under 10 years old. At that time, I worked as a mill hand in Biddeford, and we lived at number 36 Summer Street in Biddeford, a small multifamily dwelling. A major milestone occurred in 1910, and I became a naturalized citizen. That same year, we moved to Friend Street here in Kennebunk, which was home to many of the factory families in town. But instead of working in the mill, by this time I had my own business as a junk dealer. And importantly, as indicated on the census of 1910, I owned my own cart. By 1911, I was remarried to a woman named Rose Edelson, as documented by the synagogue in Portland. Rose, too, was a recent immigrant. She'd been born in Vilnius, Lithuania, which was also part of the Russian Empire at the time. In 1912, we moved our family of 6 when we welcomed our baby Anne here in Kennebunk. As happens with every family, children grow up and start their own lives. By 1920, now in our house on Brown Street, our oldest daughter, Ida, who was 21, and Sadie, 15, had already moved out. Ida moved to Montreal and had her own family there. Nathan moved to Montreal a few years later, married, and started his own family. Rose became a legal secretary, settling in Florida, and Sadie made her home in Ohio. Nathan and Anne changed their last names to Ross, not an uncommon thing for immigrant families to have done. And my wife and I still lived here in Kennebunk as late as the 1940s. As I said, our family did not celebrate much of our Jewish culture while living in Russia, but when we emigrated to Maine, we were much more free to honor those traditions. Hanukkah is celebrated on the 25th day of the Hebrew calendar month of Kislev, which occurs sometime between late November and late December. Until the mid-20th century, this holiday was a relatively minor one for most Jewish families. The very best part about Hanukkah, which is also known as the Festival of Lights, is that families gather together for 8 days to celebrate our family unit and our faith. We'll sing traditional songs, give small presents, light the menorah each evening, and play the dreidel game. Special foods are prepared at this time of the year, including potato latkes, jam-filled donuts, challah bread, and cheese blitzes. Hanukkah celebrates the miracle of having enough oil in the lamp to light the temple after a siege by Greek forces so long ago. As we had sought refuge from Russian persecution of our faith, we have a special connection to this holiday.